Why NBA players hated playing against Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is as infamous as he is famous. While clearly he is one of the NBA's greatest stars in history, he's also a lot more than that. Over his career, he's won both cheers from crowds, but also scorned by his actions both on the court and outside of it. Why did players hate playing against him? Let's find out. Why some people hated playing against him and hated him in general. Kobe was not a person with many friends, and with very few exceptions, he has no friends in the NBA other than his own team of the Los Angeles Lakers. And the reason is simple, that his ultra-competitive nature would simply not allow it. So he has no time for gossip and no concern about Dwight Howard's latest joke or any dinner plans with Wade after the game. In fact, Kobe hardly wants to shake your hand even before tip-off. So it's clear that Kobe's not in the game to gain any friends. He's simply there to win. And this also seems to work out for him. Since Kobe Bryant is not your friend, he'll have no qualms about outrightingly destroying you. He can and will use all his weapons and moves and win the game at any cost, and feel no remorse that he has just crushed your dreams and aspirations. And using this strategy has made him a multiple championship winner, but of course didn't land him high in any popularity contest. And so with that kind of personality, you might get the first reason people may loathe him. In fact, at one point or another, Kobe has been in a feud with one NBA star or another, and thus with their fans as well. Whether it's Paul Pierce, LeBron James, Ray Allen, Shaquille O'Neal, Raja Bell, or a host of other names. But that is the least of Kobe's sources of hate. Another reason that makes him so hated is simply that he can be the brick wall between your team's championship win, and Kobe Bryant for some time has been the number one on the list, even though other NBA stars such as LeBron James have also gained that infamy. Particularly Magic and Celtics player and fans alike know very well how it feels to be one Kobe away from having a championship win on their hands in recent times. And this would build up too, since Kobe would do it again and again. So why wouldn't someone hate a guy that repeatedly kicks you out of the race? And apart from those two teams, Jazz players and fans probably also don't have trouble with that concept either. Kobe also found negative feelings not just from opponents but also his own coach. This was during a time when teammate Shaq was on his way to Miami and Fisher had decided to give the Warriors a try, and coach Phil Jackson was also running for the hills, leaving Kobe in essentially metaphorical ruins. And it would soon get worse for Kobe as Phil Jackson decided to write his book called The Last Season. So the book was released and the press had a field day with portions that literally picked apart Kobe Bryant. Phil Jackson made claims in that book that Bryant was uncoachable and said that he was too stubborn and would often end up going against the grain of the entire team. And so these comments from the coach solidify what most people were already suspecting of Kobe for a while, and thus contributed to their distaste towards him. Bryant, however, was able to repair some of the damage as he was vindicated not more than a year later, since Phil Jackson returned once again and coached the Los Angeles Lakers through another season. And Phil Jackson also retracted some of his comments about Kobe later on, and thus coupled with his presence back in the position of team coach, it cleared Kobe's name on the matter to some extent, since if Kobe was such a challenge to coach, why would Phil come back so quickly in the first place? Kobe has been a bit of a jerk at times, and that has earned him some rightful disdain, such as this one instance where it was definitely a mistake by Kobe, but really not the end of the world. It was well known around the NBA that Kobe has a hot temper, so most people could see this coming, and if they couldn't, this incident made sure if there was a next time. The background was that Kobe had been dissatisfied with the LA Lakers' attempts to get him the best talent, and Kobe was unusually upset about one particular day when news came to him that the Lakers had passed up a chance to get living legend Jason Kidd in order to get the then lowly Andrew Bynum. So what's his story? How did he get here? His fascinating sporting story starts early when, after spending early years in Italy, he went on to join the NBA right out of high school. Being a dominant scorer, Kobe went on to win 5 NBA championships and also the 2008 MVP award with the Los Angeles Lakers. And even though his later seasons were marred by injuries, in December 2014, he surpassed Michael Jordan and took 3rd place on the NBA all-time scoring list. And soon after that, he retired in 2016 after having scored 60 points in his final game. He also has a bit of filmography in his illustrious career too. In 2018, Kobe earned an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film for the animated film Dear Basketball. His father, Joe Bryant, himself was an NBA star, and it was he who took the family to Italy soon after ending his career in 1984, and there he played in the Italian League. Kobe therefore grew up in Italy in a pretty athletic family, where his two sisters, Shah and Sharia, both were athletes too, and Kobe himself was an avid player both basketball and soccer. Thereafter, once the family returned back to the United States in Philadelphia, in 1991, Kobe joined joined his high school basketball team, the Lower Merion High School team, and he led it to the state championships for 4 years in a row. And keeping an eye on the NBA, he started working out with the 76ers as well. Despite being good at school and decent grades and good SAT scores, Kobe went straight into the NBA from high school and was selected by the Charlotte Hornets as part of the 13th pick of the 1996 NBA draft, and was later traded and moved to the LA Lakers, the beginning of his career. Thus, his illustrious career began and he never looked back. With the Lakers in his second season, he was voted a starter for the 1998 All-Star Game and became the youngest All-Star in NBA history at the age of just 19. He teamed up with superstar center Shaquille O'Neal and won 3 consecutive NBA championships, and was also voted first team All-NBA from 2002 to 2004. Kobe also signed multi-year endorsements with Adidas, Sprite, and other leading sponsors. And even though his team did struggle after O'Neal quit in 2004, Kobe continued to perform excellently, scoring 81 points against the Toronto Raptors in January of 2006, which was the second highest single game in the history of the NBA, and also led the league in scoring that same year as well as the next. And later, in 2008, he earned the Most Valuable Player title and went on to carry his team to the NBA Finals, where they lost to the Boston Celtics. In the 2009 NBA Finals, Kobe with the Lakers beat the Orlando Magic and won the championship. And the next year, the Lakers also won their second straight title after defeating the Celtics. Kobe also played in 2008 and 2012 Olympics too, and won consecutive gold medals along with teammates Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Carmelo Anthony, amongst other leading players of the game. Later, he suffered injuries such as a torn Achilles tendon in April of 2013, and he tried to get back into the game, but he fractured his knee only 6 games into the 2013-14 season. He then surpassed Michael Jordan and became the 3rd all-time high scorer on the NBA list in December of 2014. However, that season ended due to an injury for the 3rd year in a row, as he sustained a torn rotator cuff in early 2015. But now, retirement became inevitable, because even though Bryant returned in time for the commencement of the 2015-2016 NBA season, he was struggling alongside his younger Laker players. Thus, at the end of 2015, he made an announcement that he would retire at the end of the season, and thus on the 13th of April 2016, Kobe Bryant mesmerized a sold-out crowd at the Staples Center and fans elsewhere in the last game of his career, and scored 60 points and led the Lakers to win against the Utah Jazz. This was Bryant's 6th 60-point game of his illustrious career. With that in mind, it's clear that any NBA player facing Kobe Bryant was not going to be in the best state of mind due to the pressure as well as facing the charisma of such an iconic player. So let's get into the specifics of what made the legendary All-Star not very likable in some people's eyes. And with that, it wraps up the video. Thanks for watching.